In this lesson, we'll be looking at the variations of the G chord. Now, in figure 1, we see our extended major scale in the key of G. Now, the root note we have in the parenthesis, that's the G, and it appears on the 3rd fret of the low E string. We've had the open G string here, and then we have the 3rd fret on the high E string. So that's our root note. That's our G. So our G major scale starts on that note. So all you have to do, the 7 notes from the G major scale is G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. So we start on that G note there. We know that's 1. We know A is 2. We'll play the open A. We know that 2nd fret's B, which is the 3rd. We know the C on the 3rd fret of the A string is the 4th. We know our open D string right there, that's going to be our 5th. And our 6th is going to be the E on the 2nd fret of the D string. And last but not least is our F sharp, which is the 4th fret of the D string. So there's our 7 scale steps. Now what we can do is, we take our 1st and 3rd and 5th scale steps to create our G chord. So to create a G chord like in figure 2, we just take notes, but we take in the 1st, the 3rd, and 5th scale steps. But what if we wanted to add other scale steps? Well, we can add these other scale steps on top of our G chord to create other chords. In figure 3, you'll see G suspended second. To get a G suspended second, all we're doing is adding the 2nd scale step. And the 2nd scale step is A, so we add an A to our G chord and we come up with a G suspended second. Now here's a couple of different ways you can play it. What we're going to do is we're not going to play the A string. We're going to kind of skip over it. It makes it easier to omit that. It frees up your finger to do other things. But the G suspended second, we're going to play the A, 2nd fret of the G string. So in measure 1 of figure 3, we'll see the first half of the measure is the G suspended second, and the second half of the measure is just a regular G chord. And this is to show how the suspended second resolves it back to the G. Let's do that first measure again. And the second measure is another version of a suspended second chord you could use. But the suspended chord wants to resolve back to the G, so it's good to use a G chord after a suspended second. Same in the case with the G suspended fourth. The G suspended fourth, we're adding the 4th scale step to our G chord, which is a C note. And this is kind of an easy version of the chord that you can play. We know that we have an open B string right here. Now the B is normally our 3rd, but if we add the 4th, which is on the C on that 1st fret, we have a G suspended 4th chord. Now if we pull off back to our open B string, we go back to the G and it resolves that. Now by adding the 6th scale step, which is E, we get a G6 chord. Here's a nice easy G6 chord to play, the first measure of figure 5. In the second measure, we can skip that A again and the A string, And here's another version of the G6. See right here, I'm just kind of using my finger to mute that A string so we don't, it doesn't really make a noise. In figure 6, we'll talk about our G major 7th chord, which is adding the 7th scale step. In this case is an F sharp. So we add an F sharp to our G chord, and the first measure, here's a version that you can play. And in the second measure, we have another version you can play in the open position. We're going to skip that A string again and just use that second fret of the high E. As you can see, we've run out of scale steps, so we've created the possible chords using this method. We have our G suspended 2nd, our G suspended 4th, our G6, and our G major 7. And combine that with your G chord. You can use any of these chords as a substitute for G at any time, and it should add a little bit to your musical vocabulary. So we'll see you next time.